Hey guys, how you going? I'm running a bit late. Okay, yeah. I'm here. Okay, let's get cracking. Let's interact. Guess. Hang on. Okay, let's do it. Hello.
Hello. There you
I'm
go.
sorry I'm late. I'm sorry I'm late. That's my bad.
You're okay. Let's see.
I don't just wake up like this. I have to make myself look beautiful.
What did I do that last time?
Okay. Hey guys, my name is
I'm sorry, you're
Eclecticallyme.
cutting out. We've been having some connection issues.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Eclecticallyme. I am on TikTok, as you guys know. I have I do Witchtok news, and I also do mentoring, which I teach beginners and do beginner classes. Basically, today we have I started Witchtok News, as most of you know, and I decided that I wanted to start Witchtok Live, where I could introduce you to a lot of the creators that were on the app, and you could get to know them as people and who they are behind the computer screen. So we started off with Derek last time, and this time we have WYRD Creations. And would you like to introduce yourself, sweetie?
Yeah, hi.
To the group? Just tell them a bit about yourself.
So, say, me?
Just to tell them a bit about yourself, like introduce yourself.
Sorry, I think okay, yes. So I'm a left-hand path practitioner. So I don't really like to give like too many labels. As far as like Satanist or whatever, I will use just because that is like give people like a good idea of exactly what kind of practice I do. But I'm on the left-leaning side. Um, I used to be an occupational therapist. I'm kind of stepping out of that field, but that's what I used to do my full time. I am a fur mom. I live in Michigan. I am obsessed with my husband. I do powerlifting. I garden. I'm very eclectic in a lot of things I do. I just like to live life and experience it, and everything is overly romantic and like a movie.
Yeah, that's so cute. Sorry, I got sniffles. Okay, so basically, I'm just going to ask you a number of questions, and the peanut gallery can ask you questions also throughout. So we're going to start with the number one question.
Okay.
What type of witch are you?
So yeah, that's like where I run into having issues with labels. That's why I say left-hand path practitioner. I guess I would say I identify mostly with like Luciferianism. That tends to be the best one. But I dip into a lot of different things. I love astrology. I love crystals. I love herbalism, like, divination, tarot. Whatever I resonate, whatever I feel attached to is what I go with. And I don't really care about too much what it is. There's a reason why I'm curious about it, and I'm going to dive into it, whether it's an ancestor or a past life, or there's a clue in there. I kind of think every practice is a puzzle piece to like the big puzzle, and so I'm
Yeah.
just curious, and so I'm studying everything I possibly can. But I tend to think that everything just always ends up going back to the left hand path. Um, just like at its core, like the left hand path seems to be where a lot of spirituality originated, and it's just kind of evolved over time. And that's can you can get I guess picky and choosy with what perspective and theory you want to go down with that type of theory. But like they say, like I've read that like even Jesus was like a left hand path practitioner. Like it's all about us trying to reach that Christ consciousness in our lifetime. And when you do a more right hand path, that tends to be over multiple lifetimes. Where when you're left hand path, you're trying to get it done as quick as possible, and in one lifetime is like if you can.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And when did you start when did you become a witch?
So I started
Like, how old were you?
like my whole story. It's kind of funny because I've not to be that person because it's kind of ridiculous to be like I've always been a witch because we all always have been. I started openly calling myself that in about 2019 and like openly practicing. I had like my whole life I've had like a curiosity about it. When I was really little, I was from a very religious background, and I was always told I was touched by an angel, and I always had these like spiritual gifts and things like that that had always been talked about, but is always in a very Christian perspective. And then I left like the church when I was 12. They were just I could see how corrupt they were. They offended me severely through like emotions of things. So I left and I became like very agnostic, and I just kept reading about things. I was always very interested in mythology and all of that. So I've like been studying since I was in like elementary school. But as far as like actually doing spells and like I guess for lack of a better way of saying it, thinking it's real, like actually putting in these principles into practice, I would say 2019. So I've a few years I've been, I guess, perfecting my craft and like really building it, and from all the things that I've read.
And would you say the religious stuff inspired you to become a witch, or was it something else that inspired you?
Well, so everyone kept in my family, to be very honest, like I'm transparent, so I don't care. So, my family told me that I was so fucked up and that I needed to find God, because I had gotten so far off the path. Because like I said, we grew up pretty well, not really. My grandparents were really religious, and my mom was kind of like losing her faith, and then she had this spiritual child that was born, and everyone was like, she's touched by an angel, and I got my mom back into church and all this stuff, and then when I was 12 years old, I was going through a lot of just like everything, whether it's hormones or whatever, but I was really suicidal and just really depressed. And I was having all these visions of like horrendous things and no one could really explain it to me because it wasn't like nightmares. It was in the middle of the day. I would just like zone out and have this like night terror, like in the middle of whatever I was doing. It was very random. And so I was like feeling like something was really wrong with me and just all these things. And so my mom took me to my pastor, and I tried talking to him about it to calm me down and find answers. And he told me that I was bringing it upon myself for being who I was because I was really into rock music. And I've always been that. I'm an Aquarius, so I've always been that like darker taboo kind of person. And so he told me I was welcoming in the devil into my heart, and I was just evil and all these things. And if I didn't want to kill, and I was like, well, I don't want to kill myself, but I'm feeling like there's something telling me I need to. Like it's like having visions of me doing it, but I don't want, it was the whole thing. And so once he told me I deserved it, I told the church to kiss my ass. I was like, I don't know any God that would actually tell a 12-year-old that like this is all their fault. You know what I mean? Like just everything about it was just so fucking crazy to me.
Yeah.
So then I was just kind of agnostic. Like I didn't say I didn't believe because God forbid you say that to anybody. But I just lived in this like limbo. And then the man I was dating before my husband just wrecked me emotionally. He was 13 years older than me. It was a whole mess of a situation, like just toxic in every way. And I would say he cracked my heart chakra open because like the pain I felt when we broke up was right in the heart chakra and it felt like someone just like
Oh,
punched it. And when I was going through all of that and trying to cope, that's when my family told me I needed to find God. And so I went back to the roots of just studying and I started learning about religion and I was like, hey, wow, God is Satan. You
that's
know, like it was just like really funny how like through all that studying I found all of these connections in the bigger picture and I could see how it got corrupted and changed in this like crazy game of telephone. So then I just started like you know the magician like with the string you're just like constantly pulling it. Well, I was like,
yeah.
well, I'm going to pull this until I get to the very end. And the very end of it was I was like I studied a lot through Michael Ford. He's a Luciferian and that just kind of seems to be one of the roots of it all. Stephen Flowers, he's a really great I don't really know what his title would be. I guess like just religious
Illusionist,
studies professor.
isn't he?
Oh,
Illusionist? Is that who I'm
I'm
thinking of?
not too sure. I know that I have a book of his called Lords of the Left Hand Path, and he did an amazing job compiling all the different mythologies and understanding how other like right hand path religions evolved from those left hand path like philosophies and how like it like and how they also intertwine. They're the same story, just a different flavor or different culture, like however you want to view it, but ultimately the root of it is the same. Like that's where we're all interconnected.
Exactly. And I just wanted to answer Alyssa. Alyssa, no, to do divination, you don't need to be in contact with your ancestors. You just use your divination tools. And you also listen to your own intuition. I would recommend bonding with your tools if you can. Cleanse them when you first buy them. You don't have to, someone doesn't have to buy you the tools. You can buy them yourself. Try to touch and feel them, pick ones that appeal to you, cleanse them when you get home, and then bond with them, sleep with them, carry them with you, take them wherever you go, keep them near you, even put a bit of your hair in the box, um, and then bond with them in the sense that get to know the cards, feel them, flip through them, shuffle them, look at the pictures, learn what they mean and stuff like that, and then start doing what type of divination you want to. A lot of witches don't do all types of divination. You sort of just pick one. Some people like oracles, some people like tarot, some people like pendulum boards, some people like pendulums, some people like Ouija boards. Like it's just sort of what you prefer. But yeah, I just wanted to answer that question in the peanut gallery. Okay, so the next thing was when was your first spell and what was it?
That's such a crazy question. Because I'm trying to think. Let's see. My okay. So I was okay. So I'm gonna say my first like direct spell work that it because I did rituals before that, but it was more so just like setting up candles and meditation and kind of like getting in like my feet wet, so to speak. So like my full first blown spell, it was May of 2020 where I did a fertility spell for one of my friends, Savannah, and she was got pregnant with her second kiddo, and now she has her third. And she got the girl that she wanted, which I thought was really cool. Her husband, to this day, blames me because they had a son first, and he did not want a girl. He wanted another boy. And she asked me to do the ritual for her, and I was like, I don't know if like I'm that good yet because I'm still just trying to like get a feel for all these things. And she's like, I trust you. You like she's like I know you. You read things, you analyze it, you take it seriously. Like I fully trust you, but I want my girl. She's married to a Navajo man and his father is a traditional medicine man. And so she's like I'm into this woo woo shit. That's what she calls it. And she's like, do your witchy woo woo. And I was like, all right. And so I did it, and she got her girl. And like I said, to this day, he still swears that it's all my fault. But he's also blessed at the same time. But he got an Aquarius who's born the day after me, and he's like, I'm in living hell if
Oh
I'm gonna
wow.
have to grow up with one of you.
Wow. The next thing is what was your first backfire and what happened?
Okay, so this is a really hard question for me to answer, not because I don't think anything's ever backfired, just because like I do a lot of alchemy. So like anything that's sent my way, I'm like, to me it's just like utilized in my favor. It's like, oh, I can just take this and add it to what I'm doing. Just kind of like a revolving door, so to speak. It's just always coming. So I haven't really felt anything that I would say is like a true backfire. I've had things that didn't work out the way I wanted it to or how I thought it would. But I've always been able to see how it was working in my favor. So I'm really trying to think if there's anything very specific that backfired. Well, so I guess I wanted to release and cut the cord for myself from all the toxic feminines in my life. That was a big ritual that I did. And I wouldn't say this is a backfire, it was just a shock. I ended up losing my childhood best friend of 20 years, who I always thought was in my corner, and it turned out she was never in my corner.
No.
So you can count,
Mm,
I don't know if that's a backfire, but it really fucking hurt.
yeah, my backfire would be when my first was a protection spell, and I did the protection spell so well that all of a sudden bugs started entering our home. We never had bugs before, but there was heaps of bugs, heaps of cockroaches. You know the little German cockroaches?
Oh my
And
gosh.
oh my God, I used a new hair product and it's made my scalp really itchy. Um, the yeah, the little German cockroaches, and we had them all over the house, and it brought in, and as soon as I broke the spell, the cockroaches went and all the bugs.
Wow. So there's nothing like escaping, I guess.
Exactly. So that was a protection spell, so I was protecting myself against anything negative. So that's what I had said in the spell. So yeah, any negativity. So that brought bugs. So that was that. So the next one I will say is, okay, what brought you to TikTok?
So many people kind of not really forcing me. So I have like some pretty devout like anarchist beliefs, and like I was like, especially, I don't know, I go back and forth with TikTok because it's kind of evolved into something that is um not what I thought it was. Like, you know how they like to portray it, especially the Republicans. They always like, oh, like all of this stuff that goes about it. But I was like, I don't like want them to steal my data, and like I just kind of like, I'm 27, but I still felt like maybe I was like a little too old to be on here because I just knew like high schoolers were using it,
Mm-hmm.
and like I
Mm,
like to dance, but I'm not doing your stupid TikTok dance trend. Like I don't like trends. Like I just want to post what I like, and it's my vibe, and I want people to like
100%.
it and follow it. But here, like, there's such a crazy algorithm. But everyone was like with my candles because I was just doing like Instagram and stuff, and they're like, "You should do TikTok. You really need to do TikTok." And I'm like, "I really don't want to. This goes against a lot of my core philosophies." And they're like, "You'll love it. I promise." And then it's like, well, how do you sell things in a modern business like when you're trying to like figure things out? And there was just so much feedback about how good TikTok was of getting your stuff out there that I was like, sure, let's do it. And then like the edits became like really fun. And I've had a really good community, and it's really turned into something really cool. And it's actually one of the only places I can get news that I can't get anywhere else. And it's like really funny how, which is ironic based off of my path, like think people will demonize things just to deter you away from it. And then once you like face it, you realize it's nothing what they thought. And
Hmm.
American companies
I
are
was also
stealing my
going to
data,
ask
so
you
I
the
gotta stop
pros
saying
and
it.
cons of Witchtok too, but I think you've pretty
What
much
pros and
answered it
cons?
in that section. What the pros and cons of Witchtok is.
Oh, well, so the pros are like there's some really cool people, and I like the people who you can bounce ideas off of because like we're all just kind of navigating our path, right? So you need those people that you can be a soundboard to that will kind of help you juggle these like really complex philosophies that normies don't really like dabble in. You can't. Some Christians you can have like a really in-depth conversation, but a lot of times people are like, this is the way it is, so you can't really analyze things and question things. So I really do like that community and seeing a bunch of different paths and getting curiosities and inspirations for different ideas about how to do things. That is really cool. The cons of Witchtok is that there's also, while there's equally this side of people who can have open-minded conversations, there's also this just cesspool of drama of like you saying this against my belief and I'm gonna damn you and then you're fake and you're this. It's like I don't know. Like me going against Witchfoot, nothing personal to her. She just kind of gives me the ick, and I really didn't like what I felt in her book, and I have a lot of opinions, and I can go on a whole deep analytical rant about why I feel the way that I feel, but people weren't open to it. The moment I said I just like don't agree with it, they just came to attack, and I don't appreciate that because it's like either she's like has a cult or these are a bunch of closed-minded baby witches who don't understand that like all of these things or like that's part of her protection spell,
Keyboard
and if that's
warriors.
part of her protection spell, I have issues with that because why are you trying to like tear down people? Like she's been, and that's me. I'm saying that based off of other conversations I've had with other people. There's like this is I guess a rumor mill of things, but
Mm-hmm.
just some stuff that I've like heard, and I don't agree with when you do magic. There's a lot of scales. Okay, the universe it's like there's so many layers to it. There's billions of scales. And on top of one big scale. So there's a big scale that's the universe, but then there's a million
Karma.
other scales of different perspectives that you have to balance. And when you're dealing with magic, it's up to you to be aware of all of those things and try to make sure they're balanced because you're putting out a butterfly effect. That's what energy work is. So you have to make sure it's balanced with like the whether it's the laws of the universe or whatever. You have your own principles, but to me, like it's not about like being anti-baneful magic or anything. It's just making sure it's balanced. And so it's
Yeah,
like so
that's
if
what
you're a
I said to
practitioner,
Derek the other day. Balance, like all witchcraft needs balance. There's not light or dark. It's a bit of both because you need that to be balanced to be a witch kind of thing. You can't just be one or the other.
well, that's how things backfire. Because it's like, okay,
Hmm.
like I'm gonna send this baneful magic to this practitioner that I don't really know, and I'm doing it in an unbalanced way, and then you're gonna be really surprised when you find out who that person is, because you're just making quick, snappy judgments based off of a social media post. Like half of my like TikTok posts, that is not the full like depth of the type of witch that I am. I say like I post quite a bit of things just like it's fun. Like I share my altar. I'm very transparent about my birth chart and I don't fully care what people know about me, but there's still a lot of details that I keep private or I wait for like an in-person conversation because
Hmm.
there's only so much you can say that isn't going to get misconstrued in 3 minutes on a video
Yeah,
post. You know what I mean? And then,
exactly.
I don't know, lives are great, but there's just something about that in person connection. They feel your energy and kind of understand you a little bit more than they do virtually.
Yeah, it gets twisted a lot. What is some of your favorite creators or someone that maybe isn't very popular and you want to highlight?
Cool. So I had to write names down because I was gonna forget. Where did my book go?
I
Just
did
I'm
ask
terrible
her
with
that question
usernames.
ahead of time so that she knew who, like, she'd want to mention.
Yeah. So I mean, so this person I really want to shout out. This is my best friend. Her name's Carissa. She's not like she has a TikTok. She doesn't post. I'm trying to bully her into posting her art on TikTok. She's a fucking phenomenal painter.
Oh,
I like, and I'm not biased. I am biased, but I'm not biased at the same time. This bitch is amazing. So her Instagram is should have been a crow and she's Carissa Harden here on TikTok. And so like people go find her art, bully her into posting more because
we'll
she.
write the
I
link
really
down
hate when
below.
people feel like we put it. Yeah, I'll for sure share her stuff because she's amazing. Moon Goddess Messages. She's a tarot reader. She's awesome. She was one of my giveaway winners for my candles. She's been really fucking cool to interact with. There's a lady. She's another fellow anarchist witch. Her name's Mother Moon Magic. I really appreciate her. I feel like she really stands up for like that divine feminine mothering role, and I think that in modern society that can be a little rare because
Mhm.
we're that's a whole other thing. And then so there's a she oh tarot on decks. I really like her. She's so fun. She's another tarot reader. She's a fairly big account, but she is or I think she's getting bigger. But I just really love her energy. She's a lot of fun. And my friend Enrique, he's daydreams manifesting. He started posting some oracle cards. and things like that. He's into like the Asian occult, which is like something he's been really helping me tie into. And that's kind
Mhm.
of like one of my missing puzzle pieces because I've gone through a good portion of the map, but I haven't quite gotten deep dive into that. And so he's been really educating a lot. And I think that's really cool because
Awesome.
you don't hear a lot about like the Asian culture as far as
No.
like witchcraft is concerned. So I
Yeah.
think, and he's Mexican too, so it's a really cool dynamic of what he's like kind of blending together with his cultures.
Mhm. 100%. So, were they? There wasn't any ones you want to highlight, or were they all the ones you wanted to highlight, or favorite creators?
Um, Oh, and then like one more that I'll say, his name is Dravon is here. I don't know how big his account is, but he's another Asmodeus devotee, and so I think he's rad as fuck. I've been enjoying his content since I found him again because he's been on and off quite a few times.
Okay, so we'll write the links down below, all the names that was mentioned, so you can go
Yeah.
check out those pages. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to ask you is, what do you think could change about Witchtok to fix
Um,
it?
People not taking it things personally. So like here's the thing, like I'll express an opinion and it's not personal to you. This is
No.
literally just how I'm thinking and viewing the world, but even if let's like you do something that I verbalize that I'm against, that's just my opinion. If you ask me, "Hey Sarah, what do you think?" This is what I think. But that does not mean that I hate you, don't like you, disrespect you, take away your humanity, your autonomy, none of it. It's just like, hey, we're having a conversation and I think that's fucking stupid, but you do whatever you want. And people will really take that personally. It's like, people tell me all the time they hate everything that I do. And do you see me changing? No, I'm just like, oh, it's cool. This is my bubble. This is my side of the world, and I think there needs to be more of like that understanding that when people are expressing their opinion, that it's not an attack on you, that you need to argue with them because people are like, you're wrong. It's like, I'm not wrong. This is just how I view it, and I can explain to you why I think the way I think, but ultimately, I'm not wrong. I'm just different, and if you want to understand it, we can try or we can agree to disagree, but like the hate and the canceling and the bullshit that they like swarm after, that needs to
Mhm.
fucking go.
The thing is, too, sometimes you can talk to someone till they're blue in the face. It isn't going to change their opinion of you. And the thing is, too, like at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what other people think. I tend to wear my heart on my sleeve, and I do take things to heart. And I'm the type of person that doesn't say no to people. And I will bend backwards for people, and I sometimes do too much and spread myself very thin. But the thing is too, yeah, that's a big thing that needs to change. I agree with that. Okay, so the next question would be, what is your favorite type of spell work to do?
Candles. No, just because
Candles.
like that's like the main thing that I make, but I really do enjoy candle magic. Candle magic and sex magic were the first two magics that I really started with. I'll be very honest. I started with
Sex
sex
magic
magic as
isn't
like a
talked
big
about very much on Witchtok.
what?
Sex talk? Sex magic isn't
Oh,
talked
sex
about
magic. It doesn't get talked about.
mm, on Witchtok.
Oh, well, I probably because like I don't know if like I'm gonna get flagged or whatever because I know there's like content and stuff like that. But just through I started sex magic as a way to heal my trauma. I was raped when I was 15. That's how
Oh,
my virginity was taken from me, and that just started a whole domino effect of bad behaviors and mental ill, like not really illness. I don't like that term personally. I'm not ill.
trauma.
Nothing's wrong with me. I just have to adapt and grow and all of those things. But just trauma. And so I really had to go through that. And that was a really cool way for me to heal it for myself and take back that power within myself. And now I'm with my husband, and it's grown into this like really beautiful, powerful kind of
It's like
neo intrinsic.
PST.
Huh?
What is it? PST?
Oh yeah, PSTD. Yeah, I have
Post-traumatic, yeah,
CPTSD. There we go. There's so many letters. Yeah, CPTSD is
yeah.
what it's called.
I
And so
reckon,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a big part. Like witchcraft in general has just really helped me heal a lot of my PTSD. I wouldn't really say that I'm depressed or anxious anymore, like outside of normal human emotions. Like I everyone gets anxious every now and then, everyone feels depression every now and then, but it's not to the point where it was. I don't feel like I'm holding up this heavy mask all the time. I feel very free, and I have the craft and all of this like lunar work that I've been doing to thank for that.
Feel free to ask questions in the um, chat. If you have a question while we're talking, feel free to ask it. The next thing I was going to ask was, what's the type of spell work you don't particularly like
Jar
or you
spells,
find
I think are
challenging?
overrated. I am. You
What was
see the
that?
I do a few jar spells, and it kind of depends,
So
especially if you're trying to like give it to somebody. It's like a really easy way to give someone a spell. Um, but
it's funny.
I
I
don't
just
know.
talked about that on my Instagram. How different types of spells other than spell jars, and also to like other vessels they can use for their spells other than glass jars, like toilet
Yeah, I
paper.
would. Toilet paper is
I
great
use
because it's bio like as
toilet
long as
paper
they're
rolls.
biodegradable.
Yeah, the toilet paper rolls. I use them, and like fabric, earth, clay, you name it. You don't just have to use glass
A
jars.
toilet paper
And then
roll is
what
an
do you do with
amazing
the glass
idea.
jars when you have like a million of them?
Oh, I know. Well, and then like I mean, I know a lot of people bury them and stuff, and like you can do that because I mean, it will eventually break down, but it takes a really long time to break down. And if
Oh,
we're all like constantly putting all of our jars in the ground,
yeah, can you
you know what I
imagine?
mean? Like it takes like I could be exaggerating, but I think it takes a few like thousand to million years to for that to break down.
Mm. What do you find more challenging, or that you feel you need to do more research about or learn more about?
Hmm. Well, I just so honestly I need to learn like everything deeper on a more conscious level. So I don't want I people have told me this term. I haven't given myself this title. I've been told that my gift is of claircognizance, and I've been trying to understand that because like I feel that that's the answer or that's what I'm meant to do or whether it's right, it's the right answer or it's what I'm meant to do in this moment. I just have a feeling, and when I'm trying to talk to people or people ask me a question, I'll be like do you know? I'm like yes, but I can't verbalize it to you, but like I know it's up here and I'm like
Mm.
constantly struggling to find the words. It's like
Maybe
expressive
you're
aphasia,
psychic with
but psychic.
hmm, psychic with.
And so I've been trying to like advance those as best as I can. It's been because so I have a lot of Pisces energy on top of my Aquarius energy, so just a really dreamy little thing. So it's really hard for me to differentiate, which is what I've been really focusing on now is that discernment of things. But yeah, that's what I've like really have the hardest time with is kind of like grasping onto it because like I'll be so in it in the moment and then it like goes away and then I'm
Mm.
like, what happened? And then like I can't remember, and it's like I was like, but I was so into it, you know. It's like it's
Mm.
a really weird experience, and so I've been trying to find ways to bridge it because like people talk about dream journals and stuff like that's like a tool to use, but as soon as I open my eyes. I don't even have time to roll over to grab a pen and paper or my phone. Like it's instantly gone the moment I wake up,
Mm.
but it feels as real as if I never went to sleep. But I have
Mm.
no memory of like I'll have like I mean bits and pieces. Like sometimes I can really pull things, but it's very rare.
I
But
have a
I
lot of
have just some.
deja vu.
I have yeah deja. I have deja vu a lot. It's I'll freak myself out like because I'll be like, did I actually live this day? Because this is a very
Mm.
similar routine, and I'll like
Mm.
go down a whole rabbit hole to myself of like kind of panicking. Like, where did
Well,
this
if you
come
ever
from?
need help, I go through all of that, so I can help you with that if you ever need
Yeah,
help.
I would appreciate that for sure. Just some navigation, because I don't fully have like I had a couple of mentors, but I tend to, not that I'm like a lone practitioner, but I tend to be very radical, and so I've just like a lot of my mentors that like they've helped guide me along the way, and then they're there for that season, and then they're like ready to move on because I'm ready on to the next chaotic thing. But I
Mm,
definitely do think that control of some of the psychic gifts that I've been experiencing would help a lot.
definitely, I can help you with that. The next thing would be your favorite advice you would give to beginners starting out.
Okay, so my advice is the advice that I wish that I was given, because when I started, there is so people are so wishy washy about things. They were either wishy washy about it, like they wanted to gatekeep it, or they were very specific, and you have to follow this direct path. I want to encourage all baby witches or new practitioners, whatever you want to call yourself, do whatever you feel. Like get curious with it. Get back to that childlike state of imagination of like, what if, because especially you have to break down all of those like conditioning that you're society, like people who are attached to that magic, right? Do you like Alyssa? She had mentioned that she gets kind of scared, like working with certain or trying to like actually work with some deities, and it's
Mhm.
like, well, to break that, maybe you think about it like a child, like play the what if game with yourself. What if fairies were real? What if
Mhm.
there's multiple gods, and then you kind of just start to imagine, you play with it, and that kind of keeps you safe psychologically because you're not dipping into that
Mhm.
fear because you're just imagining, and then you start to feel like that gut. Like, I tend to think that your chakras and your soul start to like light up. You start to get chills and signs, and you're like, oh, that's something. And then you take that something that you felt and then just start researching it and see where it leads you. Just be exploratory with it. Don't be rigid, and don't worry about rules too much until you're actually going to be starting to, I guess, like do things. But also, like, I'm a firm believer you got to fail. Like, I'm full send, figure it out. Just make sure if you're doing something really intense that you consult somebody, because you could really hurt yourself if you're not careful. But if you're just doing like simple things like self love spells, not love spells, but self love spells, healing spells, protection spells, just the basics, just see what works for you. Feel
Mhm.
into it and kind of like listen to people, but don't listen to people. Take everything you hear from someone else with a grain of salt.
And the next thing is, what do you wish you'd known at the start of your practice? Like, what's something that you wish you'd known that you know now?
Um, huh. Ooh, well, okay, so what I wish I knew is like it's a tough take. So that there is no such thing as a closed practice, and people will argue with that because there are. And what I mean by closed practice, that does not mean that you don't have steps that are needed to be in like a group. What I mean by there's no such thing as a closed practice is if you have a interest, an intuition, anything guiding you to a path that is closed, you're not
Mhm.
forbidden from engaging in that. You just have to follow the appropriate steps to be initiated. But
You can you can appreciate it, but not appropriate it too.
well, yeah, like the way, but appropriation is like more of like exploitation. Like, you're doing it for improper reasonings. But if you genuinely feel deep within your heart that this is something that you're connected to full force, learn about it, be respectful, and then find people who are initiated practitioners and
Mhm.
talk with them. And like I said, follow the steps to become initiated. But just because you're this person from this country and that skin color and this or that or whatever, that does not mean you can't engage in that practice. Like, that could be your sole practice for whatever reason, you don't know. It could be bridging, it could be healing. There could be so many reasons why an outsider is going into a closed practice.
mm.
The issue is that people need to learn the respect behind it. But I think people have misdefinitions with what these things mean, and I wish
It's
I
kind of
knew
like I was
the
born in
accurate definition.
Australia, but all my family is Scottish, so I could be Celtic in a sense, or I could go down the like Scottish witchcraft path. You know what I mean?
Right. Like
Well,
I've been
not
told because like
Celtic
I grew up
so much,
in
the Scottish witchcraft I meant, but like I don't know anything about that path. I'd love to, but I don't know anything about that path because I'm from Australia. You know. But
Mhm.
everyone, I mean everyone in my family is Scottish.
Oh well, yeah. So I mean, you might want to like look into that, see what there is for you, because it's in your ancestry. Well, that's like
Hmm.
a good point, because like you're talking about, well, I'm Australian. Well, so this is something that I've dealt with being like, because I live in Michigan now, but I grew up in New Mexico in the Four Corners. The
Hmm.
Navajo or Dene tribe, that was the biggest tribe near me,
Mm.
but I was always around a lot of indigenous cultures. There's the Apache, there's the Hopi, there's the Pueblo. There's a lot that surrounded my area because I was in the Four Corners, so there's all of
Mm.
them.
Mm.
But I had a lot of Navajo friends. My mom worked on the Navajo reservation as a nurse for them, and so I got to know the families. Like the families made me traditional jewelry, so I have a lot of practices that are in that indigenous culture because
Mm.
I was taught that. That was from my
Mm.
area, but I was told, well, you're white, which is that's a whole other argument because I'm a very
Mm.
mixed person, but they're
Yeah.
like, you're white, you can't do this. I'm like, but I grew up here. Your culture is
Mm.
where you're from. So if I grew up in New
Mm.
Mexico, even though I'm white, why can't I like engage
Mm.
in this practice? This is the practice
Mm.
of my cult, my region. This is what I
Yeah.
grew up in. And then it's
Mm.
like, well, you can't, because I have like, especially as pale as I am, I really show my Irish roots. And it's like, well, then you should go be a druid. It's like, well, I'm not really
Mm.
like I'm from there, but I'm not from there, and I find that more disrespectful than doing something that I grew up in my whole life. And so like that's just where like to me,
You can
that's
tell
where
we're Scottish or Irish because we glow in the dark. But the thing is, too, if you think about it, yeah, we glow in the dark, skin wise.
I got my
What I was gonna say was, the what was I gonna say? It's in my head. Um, it's totally gone from my head now. I was gonna say, oh, we have Aboriginals here, so we don't have Native American. We have Aboriginals. And they were basically treated the
okay.
same way as the Native Americans. Basically, Captain Cook come, and this was their land, and we basically took it from them, and then imprisoned half of them, took their babies and the wives, and basically had mixed children, and then raised them in white skin schools. So if a child was lighter, they would take the kid from the mother, you know? And yeah, so
Wow.
it's a very, very similar background to you guys.
Well, and like it's unfortunate. Like it's just it's a, I don't know the word for it, but it's a really shitty truth of the world.
It's
That's how
really horrific.
almost the
It's
whole globe
horrific.
was founded, was through colonization. And
Mm,
it's like, and you those are the sins of our ancestors, right? That's what we're supposed to be healing. But also, like, in a way, like, there are silver linings to it, because not everyone that migrated throughout the world was a tyrant. Some people were just moving for a better life. There are
mm,
refugees and immigrants all over. And so you have to take the good with the bad. Like, yes, like, there was a lot of colonization and, like, overtaking and whitewashing and genocide and all of these things, but like that's kind of not that it's cool, but the world has kind of played out, and every culture has experienced that in one way, shape, or form or another. And so
mm,
now it's like, how do we heal that? Well, we have to bridge
mm,
together and understand that we're such a melting pot. If you really want to think about it, how can you identify as one race just because of what you look like? Because
mm,
through the entire evolution of humanity and Pangea to moving and like I said, human migration, your genes at the very core of where they first began you're so mixed that you really can't say you're one thing or another just because your current within the last 100 years family unit is this culture. You are so eclectic of multiple things, and again, like just like mushrooms, we're all in this together. We all like have like that. We're one species, and I think we need to bridge that more and quit with this division of I'm different, you're different. It's like no, we're all the same at the core, and that you just do it in this flavor. Like we're all ice cream, but we have different flavors.
Mhm. Exactly. I get what you're trying to say. If you guys have any questions in the chat, please feel free to ask along the as we're chatting. You can ask anything you guys want to within reason to do with the witchcraft, and if you want me to ask. The next thing I was going to say was what is your favorite book or
My
books,
favorite book.
or you would recommend?
Oh, well, so the book I would recommend for anyone who wants to follow a similar path to me is either Apotheosis by Michael Ford or Lords of the Left Hand Path by Stephen E. Flowers. But my favorite book, well, I guess it's my current favorite. I have it right here. This is my current favorite. Can you see that?
Oh, okay, yep, I can kind of see it.
Yeah, I think it's
Luciferian
highlighted.
witchcraft.
Yeah, It has I believe that, oh, there's a special name for this. That like so you have Set on the side, and then that's Cain, and there's a lot of symbolism to it. But what I really like about this book is it adds more to that connection that I was talking about. So it has like the 17 faces of Lilith and all the different names. So like Lilith or Kali is a manifestation of Lilith, and so that bridges Hinduism and like I guess more of a Western left hand path like connection. And so it's really cool how it like Michael Ford really does a great job at bridging things together. And so with that book there, it really like I don't necessarily always follow like any of the spells in there. I kind of like because it's his grimoire, but I add them to my own. But it gives a really good blueprint for me to understand like that philosophy and when working with certain deities and spirits and archetypes and all those things. Like, okay, now how can I apply this to me specifically with what I'm wanting to execute? And then I'm able to pull from other like sources because like I said, he bridges so many different cultures that you can kind of really fit what you need with where you're at.
Mm. I just got, funny you said that we're talking about books. I just got this from Llewellyn's. I can never say that name properly. That
Oh,
name.
Yeah, Llewellyn.
They sent me the so I got books
They
for
sent you
free
what?
to review.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
nice.
so I didn't pay for them. So those reviews will be coming. They send me books every so often. So what I was gonna
That's
say
nice.
was, yeah, it is. It's cool. What books would you recommend to a beginner?
So I really like especially if you're wanting to like just learn basic ingredients as far as like herbs and oils and stuff goes. Both of Scott Cunningham's encyclopedias of herbs and what is it, brews and something or what, I can't remember the full title, but those two books like they're very well done. He gives really good descriptive understandings as to why you would use that ingredient for this intention and things like that. You know, he's not just writing spells for you to be like, hey, Monday moon water, and like has a list. It's like here's an herb, here's its planet, here's its zodiac, like, and here's a description of it, and so you can really adapt to it. It's not a copycat. It's a really cool glossary. So and I think those came out in like the 70s or something, but they're just classics. I would highly recommend those two. Um, and really like after that it just kind of depends on what kind of witch you want to be. And so then like I don't have any other like beginner like astrology books. When it came to astrology, I just kind of threw myself into it and just started asking people questions and learning all the archetypes and stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. what do you do in your practice that maybe others would find controversial what do you do in your practice that people might find that others don't do that people might find controversial?
I'm trying to think of what I can say. I do a lot of interesting things. Um, well, so I mean, like when it comes
Or
to
even just doing things that others might not do in their practice?
yeah, so when it comes to my
Or
animal
doing something
sacrifice,
that others do, but maybe something you do that like others do differently?
yeah, I gotcha. So like here, because it's been like my controversial topic of the month, animal sacrifice. So with my animal sacrifice, I have yet to like kill the animal myself. I do offerings through animals that I find because I live out in the country, so it's really easy for me to go down the road and find a few dead animals. Because here's the thing, like
Yeah.
they're when they're roadkill, that's an unnatural death. And so a lot of part of what I do with utilizing the roadkill is healing that animal spirit because like that like really inhibits it's an unnatural death. I find a lot of like other ethics with that, and so I heal like the energy, and I have a couple graveyards in my property that I just and I let them naturally decompose. I have a tree
Oh, that's
Beulah.
sweet.
I put them underneath her and I cleanse them with moon water and I leave a bunch of flowers and other special herbs, and then the bugs and birds just they slowly decay over time. Like I don't increase the decomposition process like some people will when they work with animal bones with like and nothing against taxidermy and things like that. It just I think there like certain things need to be done in a very certain way. But that's how I do like my animal sacrifice, and then once they're completely decomposed on their own, then I take their bones and then I cleanse their bones in a boiling pot and just get rid of any of like the remaining bits that I can't kind of. Um, but that's how I go about it because like I I don't know. It has to be a very specific reason for you to kill the animal. I personally think that like if you're going to be killing it by your own hand,
Mm.
you need to be eating it on some level or doing it very very specifically. I think people like if you're torturing an animal, which is the whole point, you're not making it sacred, so you're not sacrificing it anymore. You take away what that the word sacrifice means to make sacred. That is the literal direct definition of that word. So if you're engaging in any mutilation or torture, you're instantly not doing that anymore because that you know what I mean. Like that doesn't add up. How are you?
Mm.
You're what's the word? Disrespecting the sanctity of that spirit by engaging in those like traumatic practices. So I try to find the least
Mm.
traumatic way possible to still benefit and still get like the same benefits because just because you have a tradition of the old world doesn't mean that we can't evolve into more humane ways of doing it that again are balanced because you have all of these other different energies, and if you carelessly sacrifice an animal through your mutilation tactics, well then you're just going to upset like these other spirits who find that offensive. So it's like, well,
Mm.
how do you still get what you need while not offending? Because they're like, it's an ecosystem. You got it's all
100%.
about problem solving and things like that.
Um, Thank you so much, Katie. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. What I was going to say was, what is your favorite herb to use and what is your least favorite herb to use?
Ooh. So patchouli is probably my all-time favorite. I absolutely love patchouli, which is so funny because I didn't love patchouli for a long time. And I met my husband, and he really liked patchouli, and I was like, "You silly little earth sign, why?" And then I guess like it's probably also because it's a part of his like scent, so that's probably another reason why like I really love to use it because it reminds me of him. But as I connect, I
Mm.
was on. I'll be honest, I was on mushrooms one day and I was engaging with my patchouli. I had a patchouli smudge stick and I was like making candles and I was doing all these things and I was just like really in a vibe. And my friend Katie, who's like you commented, she was talking about patchouli. I'm like, I've been really using it a lot, and I just went on this whole like tangent about how amazing patchouli was, and it like came
Mm,
it fully came from the deep core of my subconscious to like the my frontal lobe about why I was so attracted to this. It's such a powerful herb. It's beautiful. There's so much you can do with it. It's very loving and protective and grounding,
yeah,
and it's just comforting, and I feel like it's very dependable, like you would think an earth, so anything an earth sign would do for you, especially a Capricorn, because like that's my bias to my husband. I feel like patchouli will do for you, and
hmm
I would welcome all the Capricorn energy I possibly could into my life, so that's why I really love patchouli.
And what's your least favorite?
um So I don't really have like a least favorite. Like there's a lot that I just don't really use. I'm trying to think of one that I'm just like, oh my gosh. I'm looking over at my herbs right now. Um, so a lot of people use like a griminy, however you say that. I
Alchemy?
see it all the time,
Alchemy?
but I never use it. I have a whole jar full. That's why I looked at it. I was like, oh yeah, that's why you're one of my only jars that's full to the top because I just like really don't use you. It like never really calls to me. Like the one
Mm,
like patchouli, lavender, rose, um rosemary, and turmeric, paprika. Those are the ones that like really call to me all the time. Like those are some pretty consistent ones. Rosemary, patchouli, and lavender are probably the top three that I use for almost everything. I like cinnamon and clove, but yeah, it's more like the leafy ones. Oh, pepper. Okay, I figured it out. Peppermint. Peppermint is the one I hate. I don't like using the most,
hmm
and I just realized that because the smell, it's not that it's a bad smell. It's just so much. It's too strong. Like you only need a little bit, which is
hmm
like it's good to use. But I just get. I'm like, see, like get away. You're too much. The strong personality.
Mm, yeah. It's some smells can trigger you totally. What was I gonna say? The next question I was going to say was off the top of my head, I had one. I keep losing my train of thought. That's not a good thing. Um,
Oh, that's my
what's your
life, so don't
favorite
worry
thing
about it.
to make within the craft, like DIY style,
Oh,
besides your
so I
candles?
made. Oh, besides my candles, yeah, no, I made this really cool. It's a double broom thing, and I wrapped a bunch of crystals and flowers and stuff on it, and like hung it over as a whole protective broom that I did over the winter. Is those cinnamon stick brooms that you can get? My husband got me
Yeah.
some, and I just had this idea, so I attached two together. Like so each had like the flare of the broom was on each side, so it kind of looked like a bow. And I put a bunch of selenite and tourmaline and just a bunch of other like really cool things in there. And then flowers from our garden that we dried out like right at the end of the season. I put it up above our bed, and then carried it all through winter. I just took it down when spring hit.
And is there a specific spell you like doing?
Um, Honestly, my favorite spell is just a good old fashioned bonfire and throwing shit in it. I like whatever it is that I need to get the fuck out of my life. I tell my husband, I'm like, make me a fire because I can't make a fire no matter how hard I try. It's just not in my nature, and so he'll build me a fire, and then I just am throwing stuff in it. We have a specific fire pit that's just for me to throw things to burn in, and then we have a separate one that we like will cook in.
Mm. And what called you to witchcraft? Like what inspired you and called like what was it about witchcraft?
um Okay. Well, so really, truthfully, and this is just really funny, is I had been called a witch by so many men that I dated starting in high school. People just like kept calling, like people were weird about it. Like they were, and I wasn't. Like that's like I wasn't like practicing. I wasn't. I didn't dress like I do now. Like it was really people like you're like a witch, and I was like one guy broke up with me because of my Christmas tree was black, and he broke up with me because my black Christmas tree because I had to be a witch, and I was like, it's Nightmare Before Christmas, you weirdo. And so I was like, by the time I had been told this like way too many times, and I just kind of got to this point where it's like, well, I need to find God, and apparently I'm a witch, so let's go see what this is all about. But that's just kind of, I was like, well, why do people think I'm this way? Because I can be pretty, like I'm very
Sorry.
self-aware, but I'm not self-aware to like other people. Like I'm not aware when I'm being perceived. It always shocks me when I find out that I'm being perceived by other people. And so I'm like, well, why are people viewing me this way? Because that's not how I view myself.
Yeah. The thing is too, like you can perceive yourself one way or do stuff one way and people will see it totally different.
Yes. Yeah. So that was a big part of it. And then I realized I was like, oh, I do that. Like I've had an altar my whole life, and it's really funny to think about me all the way back in kindergarten having an altar that I didn't realize like that's what I was doing. But I've always had
Wow.
just this little area, and very similar to how mine's set up with a mirror and everything. And I
Wow.
didn't realize that until about 2 years ago. I was like, huh, I've done this my whole life because we just moved into this house and I was setting up my altar and it just like flashed back all these memories of every time I moved into a new room or like redecorated my room or whatever. I'm like, I've always done this, which I think is really
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Mm. And what was I going to say? The is there a specific Sabbath that you enjoy?
Um, well, I mean, so actually, so it's funny. I've lessened my love for Halloween since I've been engaging. Yule is probably my favorite, like that whole 12 days. But and that's just because it's a time I feel really one within my inner feminine. I feel like I've especially the last couple of years, I've really resparked that joy and that light that my grandmother used to have because like I just remember all of those experiences. It was Christmas at the time, but I just remember that energy that she radiated around that time of year with like cooking and all the effort she put in to make everything so special. And then when like families, like my family started moving apart and we kind of separated and like just kind of went away, and like the holidays were always like just really dull, and I just kind of missed that. And then I met my husband, and he he's a fellow practitioner, so like we got to have like that family where we got to experience that together with like little traditions and things like that. And I've just completely re-fallen in love with that, especially this last year because I got to like really hibernate through the winter. So if I can hibernate, I 100% love Yule. But if I can't hibernate, then the summer solstice because I am also a lizard and I need it to be warm.
Mm-hmm. With you saying that your family was religious and that you like weren't in the religious side of things, how does your family know that you're a witch?
Yeah, I've not been shy about it at all. My sister does not talk to me anymore. The whole story is like I had heard she was saying some stuff, and I was like, hey, are like we not cool? Like, what's going on? And I just get this paragraph, and it was like, yeah, we're fine. We don't have a problem, but your witchcraft, I'm really concerned, and I unfollowed you and this and that, and I haven't spoken to her. I spoke to her when my grandma died at her memorial. But after that, besides that one situation, I haven't talked to her in 3 years.
Oh,
And
that's sad.
huh?
I said that's sad.
Oh yeah, and so yeah, and I know a lot of them. A lot of my family members are afraid of me. That's they don't try to understand it. My older brother's wife, her name's Allie. She's a Capricorn, another brilliant Capricorn. I just love them because they're so real. Like she's never once judged me, and she's been fully supportive of me, and she lets me teach my nieces all about the craft and the path, within reason. You know, like she doesn't want me like saying like, "Hey, this is Satan," you know, but she lets me. I give them crystals. They've read tarot cards, and you know they're really like, and they're beautifully naturally gifted witches. All four of them are just such lovely souls, and that's just that generational curse, like all of that I've been working to break, and then like with my sister-in-law and my brother, he's a Cancer, so really breaking all of that Cancer karma too for him. Like, there's just been some really cool healing work that we've done, and like those girls are going to be able to live a really magical life, and I'm really excited about it. So there's that beautiful side where like my witchcraft has really been seen as a gift and the beauty that it brings, and then there's the other side where it really scares people.
Mm. And so, what do you think the pros and cons of witchcraft is?
The only con that I can think of is the judgments that you get from other people, which is funny because like I struggled with that, and that's like a whole Aquarius life path thing. For someone who doesn't want to fit in at all and be so unique, I've also desperately wanted to fit in, and it's just because you want like that family, you want that sense of community. It's like it really sucks to be so different all the time. It's like, hey, why can't you just love me for who I am? Like, you know, I love you for who you are. If you ask me, you're so different, but I still love you. But people like, especially when you hold something as powerful as a title as witch, and not just witch. Like, I learned like witch was fine. Like, especially in the beginning when I was just kind of like I wasn't as vocal about it. I would hide a lot of things, or you know, I was deceiving about a lot of things. Like I really sugarcoated a lot when I was talking to people because I didn't want them to freak out, which eventually it just made it worse. I should just rip the band-aid off, you know. But then like being like a satanic witch, a left-hand path witch, like that holds some really heavy weight, especially if you're someone who's as bubbly as I am. You know, I really just want people to understand that my message might be extreme, but it comes from like a devout place of love. And that's why I always like to remind people Jesus was a left hand path practitioner too. Like to gain Christ consciousness, you got to go through that darkness. He worked with demons, he mastered those demons. And that message can get really misconstrued, and people have different perspectives about that as well. But you tell like someone like my family who's really religious that, and it's just blasphemy, and it goes through one ear out the other, and you need to go to the loony bin. But oh, and the
That's
pros,
true.
like
And
obviously,
what about the
it's
positive?
the positive is like literally everything. Even the not so fun parts. Okay, like I've gone through some horrible tower moments that have just shattered me, especially because I got again Pisces energy in my chart. So there's that delusion there, right? And so when you have like a tower
Mm,
moment that just shatters your illusion, or delusion, it sucks. Okay, it is not fun,
mm,
but the truth, the love, the joy, like the authenticity that I've gotten by going through that, I wouldn't trade that for anything, because I have never felt so free, so liberated, just so in love with myself for who I am. Like I feel really confident. Like nothing gets to me the same way. Like even this morning I had like a horrible financial tower moment that came up, and it was just brutal, but instantly I was like, I was able to redirect myself for all the work that I've been doing. So that's just another like, because we're at the last quarter in Aquarius, right? So I'm closing out a cycle, and this was like one of the final tests. Like, okay, are you gonna dip back into that like depression mode and like hermit up? Are you gonna face it like you've been working on? And so it's just really cool to see that growth, and to know where I came from, and all the really low moments in my life that nobody really got to see, and to hear comments like Katie, she's told me a few times, she's told me that she's seen the spark in my eyes come back, because she's seen me at multiple different levels in my life. And so through the witchcraft path, being able to say that that's back, I couldn't say that anything is better. Like I would recommend everyone find it for themselves, however that looks like for them.
And Katie said, what are your thoughts on that eclectic? What do you mean by that eclectic, Katie? On being eclectic? What was I going to say? And what does witchcraft mean to you?
Uh, So witchcraft, that's a fun question. So because it's in my, I just have to like attach this so everyone can kind of see everything that I do is connected and like a Easter egg of some kind. So like in my title, weird curation. So the word weird, it means like your fate. Okay, so there's a few different ways you can do it in like different contexts, but essentially it is cultivating your own fate essentially. And so I really like that because to me, I felt most of my life, I just felt like I was like fighting to be me, and there was always this force that was like no. And so I masked a lot. Like there are so many people who like did not know me, and still to this day do not know who I actually am, even though I'm more transparent now than ever. But I masked really hard, and it was a really heavy weight. And I wasn't in charge of my own life. I was living the life that I was told I needed to live to be successful, to be happy, to be all these things. And I did everything by the book, and I was more miserable than ever. I was absolutely, I was disgusting. Like the energy that I was radiating there for like 10, 15 years of my life of just this deep sadness was just horrendous to be around. And because I wasn't in control, I was just a robot. I was just doing whatever people needed me to do. Like I was a chameleon. Like I didn't want to, because like I was so used to my destructive nature upsetting people, even though it came from a loving place. But I'm a karmic force, so like that can be brutal for a lot of people, and especially like someone like my mom, who if you're constantly around tower moment after tower moment, because like I'm a mirror, so I'm constantly reflecting back to you all the time, and that's a really heavy energy for people to be around. And so what do? Instead of just like healthy like finding detachment, they blame you, they put you down, and especially people who don't understand it. So it's just been like this whole web of things. So witchcraft to me was just taking back control of my life, my power, my everything, and just actually being happy. Like life isn't nihilistic. Like I was a very nihilistic person, and I don't have that anymore. Like I'm so full of life and love, and the universe is a really cool place. It's not a place that I'm trying to escape from anymore. Like I could not wait to get the fuck out. Not just Earth, like just anywhere. I just didn't want to be anywhere. And now I'm excited for wherever I go. And I really have to owe that all to like opening up myself to this path and the universe itself.
What are your thoughts on Jesus being a left hand? I'm assuming they're saying that Jesus is a left
Yeah,
hand,
so
and
I
what's
think
your
she's
thoughts on it?
asking, yeah, I think she's asking you, because like when she said eclectic, I think she's asking you what you think about Jesus being a left hand path, if you have an opinion on what I said.
Oh, I don't really have an opinion on it. I'm not a big religious person myself. I do believe that some of the things had to have happened maybe back then. But do I believe like in half the stories that were told? No, and like um, I'm sure there's a lot of fiction in the stories that was told like back then. But I yeah, it's how it's interpreted, and it's interpreted different by each person. And I don't think they were a witch, to be honest. But yeah. What I was gonna say was, what would you want people to know about you that they might not know about you? Like they might not see.
I'm really a kind person. Like, no, and I say that because a lot of people do not think like I said, if I say something to you, I really truly from the bottom of my heart do not have any ill intent, unless I'll tell you if I have ill intent. Like I'm a very direct person. So if I'm out to hurt you, I'm telling you, I'm out to hurt you. Fuck you. Like it's very direct, and that's honestly very rare, and that I'm usually pushed to that point. Cuz my initial reaction is I am a stony baloney hippie dippy doo. I want peace and love, and I just want to be chill, man. Like I don't want to be bothered. So if you're not bothering me, like life is cool. And so I'm like everything's, if you come to me and you ask me for something, I'm going to tell you how it is. But ultimately, nothing, I'm not telling you what I think or how I feel to hurt you. I'm telling you to help you because I want you, just like I want myself to be my highest, best self, I want that for you too. And a lot of times people don't really like that. They like enablers, or if they don't like, cause it can be triggering to hear things. And I do know that I need to work on how I present it sometimes because I am just like really direct and I don't always read the room sometimes. So I am trying to work on that because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. People don't think that. They think that I
Mm.
really want to destroy them, and I don't. I want them to be better for
Mhm.
themselves. Like, I was like,
Mhm.
listen, you're telling me you have a problem. This is how you fix that problem. This is the best solution to fix that problem. You don't think I'm listening to you, but I promise you, I'm listening to you better than anybody else because I
Mhm.
know what your heart is, what your soul wants. This is what your soul wants. This is what I'm hearing on a soul level with what you're saying. And they're like, no, that's
Mhm.
not true. And then it's most of the time, I have yet to have someone tell me that I've been wrong. I'm still waiting for it. But most of the time, a lot of people, it's like they get mad, it's fuck you, and then they go away. And I'm like, man, I really had the best intention with that. What the heck? And then they come back and they're like, you know what? I thought about it. And you were right. I just really didn't need that in the moment. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to work on that. But you did need it in the moment because look where you are now.
Mm. Yeah, that
And it's
makes
the best
sense.
karma that I've experienced. Like I'll tell the universe, I'm like, I do not need this right now. But then ultimately, I'm like,
Mm.
I really needed that right now. I needed that awakening.
Usually it
Sometimes you need
happens
someone
when
else
it's
to
trying
confirmation.
to give you advice kind of thing or to teach you a lesson.
Say that again.
Usually when things like that happen, it's trying to teach you a lesson or give you
Mm-hmm.
advice.
Yes. Yep, and that is it's a balancing
Growth.
act on like I've learned just because I see something doesn't mean I have to speak on it. But also, like I said, most of the time I'm just kind of wherever, and then I'm just like I'm just talking, and then someone's all of a sudden mad, and I'm like, oh, like I swear that I was just again I wasn't paying attention.
Mm. That's what I say about Witchtok. They want you to have opinions, but they don't like it when you have opinions.
But yeah, they don't want you to have opinions back.
Hmm.
Like they can
That's
tell
right.
it's kind of like people just should just turn your comments off. Post your content and turn the comments off and just like let it be.
Yeah, that's what I had to do when all my stuff happened. I basically my mum at the time. I remember just sitting there and being in tears, and my mum said to me, "Just get off the net." And I thought, no, I'm here but because of the people that want me to be here and the nice people. And so I just turned my comments off and just kept uploading what I wanted to upload.
Well, and like to me, like I don't think those people who are like there are people who are having like respectful debates in the comments, and that's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who are just like being like flat out hateful and like that cancel culture shit. And like
Hmm.
you do realize like you're showing yourself more than me. You're trying to say that I'm a bad person when look at how you're coming at me for having a different opinion or misspeaking or you not
Hmm.
understanding like the point of what I'm trying to say or whatever it is. But like people have like I got death threats. And I was like,
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
think that I deserve to be tortured and die because of this.
Hmm.
When you don't understand that like you can think it's as ridiculous as you want for not seeing race, but that's where I'm trying to come from. This whole like collect, like we're all in this together. I don't see you as a specific race. I see you as a human being because, again, like I just said, throughout the whole human evolution, we've all been every skin color under the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just who are you in
I
this
don't
current
see color.
manifestation?
I don't
Huh?
see color at all. Like I just see the person. Like now, I've been like that since I was a kid. I don't see nationalities and stuff like that. We're all the same. But I was going to talk about the bullying and stuff. Like I've actually had people investigate me and contact my ex-boyfriend and my mum's friends trying to get information on me.
I don't know if it went that far. That's insane. That
And
is
then shared
insane.
the information on Witchtok in multiple videos.
The
and
doc steal,
photos,
is that what that's called?
and the information was incorrect. And they shared photos of my family and all sorts.
Wow.
Even
That's
messages with
that's
my
intense.
ex. And of course, my ex doesn't like me very much, so he was like opened up like a book and told them all this information, and then they shared it on Witchtok, and it came from his point of view.
That's rude. I'm sorry. Like that's see, like that's just not cool. Like, cause like how they would not want that done to them.
No,
Like that's what I tell people. Do you want me to do this to you? Because if you want to play this game, I'll win, and you're not gonna like it. And that's like not that it's an empty threat. Because like I said, if I get pushed to it, I will die on a hill. I will make a point. But that's
mm,
not like that's not my goal. I like that's such
mm.
a waste of energy, in my opinion. Why would you want to do that to another human being? Because you're
Well, the
one
sad
decision
thing
away
was,
from being that person.
a couple months later, the same thing happened to this creator that targets certain people. And basically, what happened was they everyone was like, "Oh, poor you, poor this. Oh my God, it's so bad." And everyone was making videos about this person being targeted and their information getting released and this and that. And I thought, oh my God, they did the same thing to me and multiple people. And um, they also, no one defended me when it happened. You know what I mean?
Oh
It was
yeah,
all
isn't it like
pitchforks. It was all pitchforks. Everyone was coming to pitchforks, and people chose sides and everything. It was absolutely horrible. And it's just and that's why I started Witchtok News. It was a joke. I wanted to, because at the time I was friends with Doug Brujo, and it was a joke as if to say, "Oh my God, Doug's still alive after all the death threats." And all of a sudden people were like, "Keep doing it. This is great," like kind of thing. "You should do this all the time." So I started doing it, and and multiple people have tried to do the news since because I do it. They want to do it because they don't want to watch my news. You know what I mean? So they're doing it on their side, so they don't have to deal with me. you know?
yeah, you're inspiring them. I mean, I've had to
Yeah.
struggle with that a lot. Like imitation is like the best form of flattery or whatever, and I really struggle with that because I want people to be unique. But at the same time, it's gotta like it does feel really cool where it's like, wow, I'm inspiring you to do something, and that can be cool. But if you're copycatting me, it's kind of like that confidence boost of like I'm doing something right because you want to be me. You don't want to be you.
Mm.
You want to be me instead. And so, especially if any of those people who you're saying like were horrible to you, it's the best form of revenge because now they're spending their energy trying to be you when they can't be.
Exactly. And this will be my last question for the day. What inspired you to start making your spell candles and open your business?
So this is one of the most fun stories ever. I love it. So because it literally started over a meme, and this is like the most modern day shit ever. So my husband, I sent him a meme. I've always loved candles. I've always done candle magic, but I bought candles and like other things. I didn't really like. I made candles as crafts like throughout my life, just randomly. But I didn't consistently always make my own and whatever and I whatever. So my husband, I sent him a meme and it had Rapunzel from Tangled like making her own candles and it's like when your like wife is obsessed with candles or this or that. It was just this really cute thing and I thought he was gonna reply being like, "Oh babe, that's so you." That bitch ass Capricorn replies with, "You don't make your own candles. This isn't you." To which I said, "Bet." And I ordered my first like candle supply kit and I started making my own and he goes, "These are really like he's like they're really strong." Like he was really impressed by them. And I was like, "You're just, flattering me or whatever." And he's like, "No, babe, like I think you should do this as a side hustle because of COVID was really ruining my hours at work as a therapist." He's like, "Do a little side hustle." He's like, "You love candles. This could be a really fun hobby for you instead of," because he would always get so mad. He's like, "Instead of you just like scrolling on your phone," because I love memes. And so he's like, "So instead of you watching memes all day, like you could do something."
Mm,
And so then I started it and I was doing them in like just little jars and I was like, I just really wanted to be different. And I kept seeing all these things, and I was like, everyone's just kind of doing the same thing, the same thing. And then I was like, I want to put them in antiques. And then everyone told me not to because it was going to be dangerous. It was going to ruin the antiques. Like, I got a lot of pushback about not doing it. And then we moved into our house, and I had like a whole candle room. And I was like, fuck everyone. I went to the Salvation Army. I bought a bunch of stuff, and then I just started building everything. And it just kind of sparked from there. It was something that I like wanted to do. It was in the back of my mind that I thought would be really cool, but I was like nervous because I was like, well, let me get good at like getting the wax down. And then like again, all the negative feedback. The people are like, they're not gonna buy it. It's gonna be and they are expensive. I understand that. But
I
that's because I
saw the
don't wholesale
comments
anything.
underneath one of your videos about it being a fire hazard.
Yeah, so many people are like, and that's why like
Like
I
all
try
the
to like I
comments
burn them
about that.
myself and show people. Huh? What was that? Oh, I think are you?
Yeah,
I think you're frozen.
100%. You said you burned them. Oh, I didn't say any, besides the comments about.
Can you hear me?
Are you back?
Okay, I'm back. There we go. Okay, I was like, you were frozen there for a little bit.
Yeah, that was the only thing. Oh, okay. The only thing is, yeah, that thing I said about the. I've noticed recently you've been getting comments that about them being a fire hazard
Yeah,
in the
and
comments, and
I
you
have
having to
it's
defend
special
yourself.
burning instructions, and it's just like they're can't like come on, they're candles. They're burning hazards on their own, whether you put stuff in them or not. The crystals,
One
like
hundred percent.
they're like I said, they sink down, and as long as you don't like leave it unattended when it's at the very bottom, because like I always tell people, leave like 2 inches of wax or scoop out the crystals if you're really like nervous about it. Just scoop them out, especially like the bigger ones and if I
Yeah,
put like a really big flower, I tell people to remove the big flower, but I'm a chaotic person. I burn them fully with everything in there. Like I took a video, I haven't posted it yet. It's gonna go up, but I let the roses completely burn. But I was watching it the whole time, and then I would like if they got to like a nervous moment, I just moved it and kind of like cinched it out a little bit with the wax. But there's ways to do it. But I also believe that like they tell a story. Like there's messages in how their candle spells. So every moment of what a candle spell does, it happens for a reason. I mean, I know there's science to it, of course, but if the vessel breaks and you've like thought about every possible reason of like because I've had vessels break that shouldn't have broken, like that they cracked like right away, and I was like, what the heck? But then like when I look about it and I think about all of the above, because like I was meditating while I was doing it, I was doing all these things, and there's usually a message like I had a candle crack, I didn't even light it, it just cracked, and because it fell over and there was runes in it. It was a cylinder candle. It should have just been smooth. There shouldn't have been any carvings inside of it. But when it cracked open, there was a bunch of carvings in it. So like there's a lot of things depending on what goes on. And I've never had a candle explode. Like I said, I've had the glass crack and that can happen. I've had that happen with Yankee candles, by the way. I've had that happen
yeah.
with a bunch of candles. Sometimes and that just happens when you're not paying attention to the bottom. And that's where I started like really telling people like 2 inches at the bottom, scoop out all the crystals just to make sure,
And
especially
trimming
if
the
it
wick.
tapers. Yeah, and trim your wick. I tend to not do the best job at that for myself because, like I said, I know how to fix
And
them, so
don't
I
throw
just do it
water
later.
on it. When you are doing a spell, when you're using oil and herbs and things, don't throw water on top if the flame goes crazy, because all you're going to do is make the flame get bigger. You're best having near you when you're doing spell work dirt, sand, uh, baking soda, or what's it called? Um, oh, you know what I'm talking about. Bicarb soda. Put that on the flames
Oh,
and it'll
yeah,
snuff. Now, you want to snuff those flames, and the thing is, you want to
right.
take the oxygen away. stop a candle, stop the candle snuffers. And other thing is fire extinguisher. Obviously, always have fire extinguisher. But the best thing is snuffing that flame. So using dirt, sand, bicarb is another great one just to put on the flames, and it actually snuffs out the flames.
Yeah, I've never heard of anyone putting water on that. That would be crazy to me personally. But
Yeah,
I
because
just
the oil
have
doesn't fit.
depending on the size of the candle, I have snuffers for all of them.
Hmm. Yeah. All right, I better go because I've talked your ear off. Thank you so
Oh, it's
much
been a
for
lovely
coming and
night.
tuning in and answering my questions. It really meant a lot to me, and I hope that you enjoyed yourself. And I will upload this to my YouTube, so it'll be the full interview will go up on my YouTube channel.
Awesome. Well, thank you for inviting me. I had a lovely time. It was great chatting with
You're very
you.
welcome. I'm glad that you came on, and yeah. Um, and if you guys want to go check out on YRD Creations page, she actually has some. Her business is making candles, and she has beautiful spell candles. That's what we've been talking about. If you go on and check, she has a lot of videos putting the candles together, making them, showing them being lit, and doing spells and all sorts. So if you want to go check it out, it's all on her page.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a day. It's daytime for you. It's nighttime
Yes,
for
it
me.
is. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's about 11. I'm about to be hitting the bed.
Oh my God! Good thing I'm going.
Oh no,
All
you're
right.
fine.
Good
My
night.
husband gets off work at 11 anyway.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
well, have a
Good.
good night. I'll talk to you
You get some
later.
rest. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for the love and support
Bye,
and the comments.
everybody.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye.